An Italian magazine cover featuring an extremist Israeli settler terrorizing a Palestinian woman in the West Bank has sparked fury among Israeli officials. They call it anti-Semitic, even though it depicts the truth. Cenk, before we get to the details, your 2 cents.
There's one thing in this story, guys, that is as funny as anything you'll ever hear. So please stick around for that. Anna, go ahead.
So the magazine in question features a photo, and the photo itself is what sparked all this outrage, right? So the magazine is L'Espresso. That's the name of the magazine. Apparently it's a popular magazine in Italy. And if you see the image, it does feature an Israeli settler. And here's what they posted on X about their feature story. The annexation of the West Bank with soldiers complicit in the settlers' actions, Gaza annihilated, the advance into Lebanon, the border violated in Syria, the war on Iran, ethnic cleansing and massacres. Thus the Zionist right gives shape to greater Israel. So something tells me that even if they used or miraculously found an image of an Israeli settler that wasn't as ugly as this one, the Israelis would still have a problem with this feature, because at the end of the day, the claims of anti-Semitism usually have to do with, intimidating people who are speaking out or reporting stories detailing the atrocities committed by Israelis. It's that simple. Now, Rabbi Popko was not amused by this post, and so here's what he had to say about it. Italy's magazine, Espresso Online, publishing anti-Semitic Der Stürmer worthy imagery should clarify where they got this image from. The military vest worn here is no longer in use by the IDF. The wedding ring and bracelet are never worn by ultra-Orthodox men. The formation of the beard and kippah are outlandish. And of course, the very bizarre smile / showing teeth are unnatural. So the rabbi is implying that this is a manipulated image, a fake image. But for those who might fall prey to that type of disinformation, have no fear, there was a community note clarifying where the image came from. The photograph was taken in the West Bank by Peter Mastruzzo. That's an Italian photographer with details on the publication site in Italian. The soldier in question has been photographed by other news outlets, including the New York Times, and they provided a link for that. By the way, it's an Israeli settler. So whether he's serving as an IDF soldier at the moment, who knows, who cares? What matters is that he's in the West Bank terrorizing Palestinians and stealing their homes. That's what the Israeli settlers are up to, with the protection of the IDF, by the way. So also, same guy, take a look at this. Here's another image of the same person who was featured in the image. Same guy, same vest, same ring, same bracelet. Try better next time. Okay, but that didn't stop other Israelis from absolutely freaking out over this cover. So the Israeli ambassador to Italy condemned the magazine, claiming that the image feeds stereotypes and constitutes a hate crime. He says, we strongly condemn the manipulative use of the recent cover of L'Espresso. The image distorts the complex reality with which Israel must coexist, promoting stereotypes and hatred. Responsible journalism must be balanced and fair. Okay, I like balanced and fair journalism, so let's do some balanced and fair journalism that here in America, it's very unlikely you're gonna see much coverage of, right? And these are stories that I think we should be doing a lot more coverage of. Let me give you an example, starting with number 1. Israeli strike kills infant girl in South Lebanon during her father's funeral. The IDF bombed a funeral in Lebanon. Okay, I don't know if you noticed, but this was a headline in Haaretz, an Israeli paper. Many in Lebanon hoped the US-Iran ceasefire would also apply to their front with Israel. Instead, they got one of the deadliest days in Lebanon's history, with 350 dead. Remember, after the 2-week ceasefire was announced by the United States and Iran, the first thing that Benjamin Netanyahu did is carpet bomb Lebanon? Yeah. One of the places that ended up getting bombed was a funeral. And then when, by the way, the funeral for a Lebanese man who was killed by Israelis. And then when his family held a funeral for that man, the Israelis bombed the funeral and killed his infant daughter. Let's do some more reporting. So a scathing report by Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Monitor finds evidence of sexual torture of Palestinian detainees. And they find that it's organized state policy endorsed by the highest political, military, and judicial authorities in Israel. Here's a headline about it. Middle East Eye reported on the report saying, I wished for death. Sexual violence in Israel's prisons is an organized state policy. I wanna give you a few of the highlights in the report. So it relies on testimony from former detainees, Palestinian detainees. One former detainee, a 42-year-old woman from North Gaza who was held in the notorious Sid Timan Detention Center, said she was bound naked to a metal table and repeatedly raped by 2 masked soldiers over the course of 2 days. She recalled that she was left shackled, naked, and bleeding throughout the night before the soldiers returned the next day to continue raping her. She said the entire ordeal was recorded, filmed. Amir, a 35-year-old Palestinian man who was also held at the same facility, recounted how soldiers forced him to strip naked before their dogs urinated on him and raped him. He described how the dog penetrated my anus in a trained manner while I was being beaten. And he says that this continued for several minutes. I felt profoundly humiliated and violated. And guess what? Other men described very similar instances of rape and sexual abuse carried out with the use of canines. Khalid, an attorney with the Commission of Detainees and Ex-Detainees Affairs, described how a soldier at the same facility inserted a fire extinguisher nozzle into a Palestinian prisoner's anus and then discharged its contents into his body, resulting in severe internal injuries and intense pain. I don't know, Cenk, should I continue with the fair and balanced reporting? Because we haven't been getting balanced reporting in the United States as it pertains to the war crimes, atrocities, and genocide carried out by the Israelis. So war crimes are ugly. This behavior by the Israelis, real ugly, real ugly. And it's about time that someone actually point a mirror to them so they can get a good hard look at what they look like.
Look, first the serious stuff and the lighter stuff. So on the serious front that Anna's talking about, we talked about earlier in the show, there's a group of pro-Israel thugs that rain terror in American media on anyone who criticizes Israel. That's why you don't see any of these facts. I mean, it's an absolute outrage that mainstream media never shares any of these facts with you guys because they're in the Israel protection program. So you have to come to independent shows like us. These are all verifiable facts. You could look them up yourself. So Israel's been running a campaign of terror against the Palestinians for 58 years. It's not a recent development. And so I'm haunted by Golda Meir's line where she said, we'll never forgive the Palestinians for making us kill their kids. And that unfortunately has been the Israeli mindset for a long time. No, the Palestinians didn't make you kill their kids. You chose to kill their kids and you can't live with that guilt. So you've built this entire manufactured propaganda about how you're the victims and the people you're brutally occupying and raping and torturing and terrorizing are the terrorists. And by the way, if you study any occupation, any apartheid state, it's always the same. They always, especially settler colonies, because settler colonies, like in South Africa and in Israel, have to displace the people that already live there. And in order to do that, you must do ethnic cleansing. And when you do, you immediately set up a propaganda model that blames the indigenous people that already live there. Instantly, and same thing happened with the African National Congress in South Africa. They were called a terrorist. By the way, slaves that tried to gain their freedom or turned against their masters in the South in America. They were John Brown who tried to free the slaves. Terrorists, right? And the people in power that do the enslaving are supposed to be the good guys. No, that's not remotely true. And it sickens me that almost all of our media has been doing that brainwashing propaganda on behalf of Israel almost our whole lives. Okay, now having said all that, I've got to go back to the funniest thing. So, and I'm not even talking about Rabbi Pupko. that quote that Anna read you from Ambassador Jonathan Peled. So the guy's picture is real, right? This IDF soldier's picture is real. In fact, we can put that up back up if you want.
Let's actually go to graphic 13 here. I was amused by this post, but it provides a close up of the gentleman in question.
First of all, let's note for the record that he looks like a diseased Israeli settler version of Jonah Ryan from Veep. So I don't know if he's got a flannel shirt too, but anyways. So Ambassador Peled, looking at that real person, said that brother is so ugly that even printing his picture is a hate crime.
Yeah.
Wow, when your own government says that about you, how is that guy ever going to recover? They thought printing your picture was a hate crime. That's how ugly you are. Okay, so enjoy.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.